Network modernization is a critical step for a digital transformation at government agencies. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and here to talk about that today is Steve Nichols, Chief Technology Officer for the state of Georgia. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here.
So I'd like to start by asking, how has the adoption of cloud and multi-cloud computing impacted your agency's networking requirements for the state of Georgia?
Well, I think it impacted it first slowly and then quickly. As we started to move things into the cloud, it was pretty easy to just stick with a site-to-site VPN approach and use all of the tooling we'd already implemented in our on-prem data center and treat cloud as kind of an adjunct. As we're moving more and more workloads, we're realizing that we're just piling on technical debt by doing that, and it's a more sort of expensive and fragile way to architect things. So we're now starting to look at things like direct connect or express route to pull the traffic, as well as moving some of our tooling into the cloud, where we might be dragging a lot of log files, back down into our data center to just leave everything in situ in the cloud.
And as you continue to work on those things, what would you say are your top priorities now over the next year to improve the performance and scalability of your networks? And if you could you talk about how cost versus value plays into your acquisition plans and as you look to the year ahead?
Well, I'm going to sort of answer it in reverse order from what you asked. And I would say that despite the fact that things are moving out of our on-prem data center into the cloud, we still have tons of end users sitting out in offices now, increasingly behind broadband connections. So there's also a networking aspect for dealing with the end users. In Georgia, our wide area network is outsourced to a service provider. So we've got contracts set up where we're taking into account like technology evolution and being able to scale up and down. That's all baked into the contracts. So the big effort there is to move to an SD-Wan approach, whereas currently the incumbent is managing about 35 or so ILEX, independent local exchange carriers, and trying to sort of give us something uniform. So SD-Wan is going to smooth that out for us and maybe give us some more options and some better costing. And then, as I said, for the cloud migration, it's all about as we start to sort of tip over into majority cloud, and we're now really in a cloud first posture for any new workloads or any kind of replatform situations, is starting to move all of the tooling and processes into the cloud and make them cloud native. So things like layer 7 firewalls instead of layer 4, that kind of thing.
Terrific. And then shifting gears just a little, can you talk about what additional steps that you're taking to build in greater security protections into your networks? Yeah,
it's really besides the things that I just talked about, as far as just sort of moving a lot of this tooling into the cloud, so we're not hairpinning a lot of log files and events, back to, for example, our SIM. The other big effort really that continues for the last year or two has been around identity and access management for end users. So we've moved to MFA for everybody for email access, and then we've now done the same for VPN access. So really, and I think this is when I was at NASCIO earlier this month, what I kind of was hearing from the other states is now it's not exceptional to just require MFA for everything. Everyone's somewhere on that road now, and it's just going to be table stakes for all of us.
We've heard that as well, and that sounds like a smart move for everybody. And then lastly, maybe you could talk about, so what is your agency doing to try to speed up your network modernization procurement process as you continue to evolve? And could you talk a little also about maybe some of the key pain points you're still experiencing working with different technology partners?
For the procurement, we're a pretty big fan of using consortium contracts in Georgia, so like the NASPO value point contracts to buy things. And I think as we're all moving towards technologies and technology vendors that don't really have a regional play. It's like they're just in the cloud and it's the same for everyone. That those consortium contracts like make more and more sense because we just don't have differentiated requirements or situations where we've got local providers. I mean, it's a little different for the SD-Wan stuff I talked about, like the underlying technology for that. Obviously, the ILECs are tied to a geography, but more for the cloud stuff and any of that. It's all just now like we've all got the same requirements. We might as well just band together and use consortium contracts.
Terrific. Well, it certainly sounds like this consortium approach is increasingly being embraced by states across the country and certainly brings greater economics to all the different state players. So, but we really appreciate your taking a few minutes to join us here, Steve, to talk about what the state of Georgia is doing and how you're looking ahead around network modernization.
No, thanks, Wyatt. I was happy to do it.
Terrific.